Hi, I'm Bob Kieserman for Kids Place, filling in for Jackie Medrano. Today we're joined by Dr. Jacqueline Toner. Dr. Toner is a retired clinical psychologist and award-winning author of books for children and adolescents. Along with her co-author, Dr. Claire Friedland, Dr. Toner writes books with young people, parents, and therapists in mind. The books in her What to Do When series begin with an informative introduction for parents and present school-age children with interactive examples which introduce evidence-based strategies for overcoming jealousy, fears of making mistakes, social anxiety, and worries about frightening news events. Her books also address overcoming phobias and other major fears that may hinder a child's emotional growth. The books are all filled with charming illustrations and kid-friendly themes of pirates, explorers, and circus performers that keep young readers engaged. So welcome, Dr. Toner, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
First, please tell us what your What to Do When series is about, and why did you and Dr. Friedland decide to write the series, and what the major themes would be?
So we started this series toward the end of our clinical practices. I practiced psychology for over 30 years. And in my practice, I would often work with children and help them devise books for them to take home and work through problems that they were having. So Dr. Friedland and I decided that we would try to codify some of what we did in our practice and get it out to more kids and more parents. The books are, as you stated, that there are 5 books that we've worked on. The first one was about jealousy and envy, and it's called What to Do When It's Not Fair. And each one of them starts with an introduction for parents and caregivers about how to help children with the particular problems that are addressed in the book. And then they have activities that the kids can work through. And in the process, they learn some techniques for dealing with difficult feelings or challenging problems in ways that have been proved through research to be effective. So in addition to that book, we also wrote one about, which is our most popular book actually, which is What to Do When Mistakes Make You Quake. And apparently a lot of children quake from mistakes, and I've heard that adults find it helpful also. We've also done a book on, on shyness, on social anxiety. And the latest book that I did, which Dr. Friedland did not join me on, was about what to do when the news scares you. I found in my practice, this was an idea that started actually during 9/11, when I would have children terrified about their safety when they would hear news reports about 9/11. And I continued to hear more and more and more anxiety from children about the news. So that was the latest one that I wrote.
Oh, well, that's quite an undertaking. Very nice. If a child has fears, what are some of the things that parents can proactively do to calm those fears and prevent long-term anxiety?
So one of the biggest, one of the most important pieces of dealing with fears is to not avoid them. You know, the old adage of face your fears is really an effective way of dealing with fears. So, but we don't want to just throw a child into a terrifying situation, because that won't help them at all. So we present in the book that we wrote about fears, we present, first of all, we teach children about that when you're afraid of something, your body is reacting to something. And your body may send off a lot of false alarms, what we call false alarms. So having fears is important. Sometimes fears are protective. If there's a car coming towards you, you want to jump out of the way. So fear gives you an important message to do that. But often we have alarms that are going off and bodily reactions that are going off about things that aren't really going to harm us. And those we call unrealistic fears. So first we differentiate between those. And then we have a child address something that they're afraid of and break down ways that they can approach it in little bits. So for example, if a child is afraid of a dog, depending how afraid they are of dog, we have them rank, how afraid would you be if you saw a picture of a dog? How afraid would you be if you saw a dog that was across the street? All the way up to how afraid would you be if you were petting a very large dog? And we have the kids set up a hierarchy and then go about challenging themselves to take one step up the hierarchy at a time. We also talk about how your body can't stay in an excited state. It gets tired. So part of the job is to stay with a fear long enough, or stay in a fearful situation long enough that your body can get used to it and calm down. And I use the analogy of, your body, if you're sitting at the edge of a cold swimming pool and you stick one toe in the water and you pull out your foot and go, that water's too cold, and go sit on a chair in the sunshine, the next time you stick your toe in, the water's going to be just as cold. But if you jump into the pool and you go, eventually you'll get used to the temperature of the water,
right,
and enjoy yourself. And fears operate the same way. If you stay with it, your level of arousal goes down and you find you can tolerate it.
well, one of the things that comes to my mind, having raised children, sadly, and of course, even more so than when I raised my kids, is bullying.
Mhm.
In your opinion, why is there so much bullying in school today, which often moves itself into social media platforms? What can parents do to end this crisis, in your opinion?
Well, bullying has been with us forever, I think, at least as much as I know. It's not a new phenomenon, although we hear about it more than we once did.
Yes.
And it actually grows out of something that is not negative, which is gossip. So, people gossip. It's normal to gossip, and it's actually a positive thing. When we gossip, we make connections with other people in the process. We share information about typical kinds of behavior and what other people are doing. So we expand the universe of social learning. But it can go sour when what we're sharing is something that's critical of somebody else. So I think it's really important not to just shut down bullying and just try to prevent kids from access to bullying by cutting off social media or whatever. I mean, yes, certain ages need to have limits on social media. I don't mean to say that, but I think to just say, there's bullying going on, you can't have any social media is not the way to go. I think it's more important to use it as a teaching opportunity and help to build empathy. So this person that's getting bullied, how do you think they feel? Do you want to contribute to to that negative reaction and that sadness and upset that they're feeling by repeating what's being said? Is there any way that you can be supportive of that person or intervene to keep it from going forward? So that you're teaching kids you're not just stopping kids from bullying or participating in bullying, but you're actually teaching them some empathy, teaching them some social skills that will help them to not participate in bullying.
So you're saying that a good strategy would be for the parent to say, how would you feel if this were you?
Yeah. And work through it with them,
Right.
and also talk about, it can be hard to stand up to other peers who are bullying. So also talk about, what's it going to be like for you if you don't participate in this? What's it going to be like for you if you say, let's not pick on that person anymore? What's it going to be like for you if you reach out and try to make them a friend?
Right.
Is that going to be hard? And is there a way to make it more possible?
Finally, are there any plans for future books in this series? And if so, what will they address?
I don't have any immediate plans for this book. This is not the only series of books that I've done. So I've also written with Dr. Freeland, I've written a book on that's an introduction to psychology for kids who are younger than typically get exposed to psychology.
That's very nice.
I think it's kind of a jip that the first exposure to psychology as a science is typically in high school AP classes. And to me, it's a very accessible topic. So we've written a book for middle grade kids. And now we're working on, we have a contract to write a picture book for much younger kids on one topic of psychology as a science. And we're trying to turn that into a series. So that's kind of where my immediate energy is.
Very exciting, very necessary, very exciting. Thank you so much, Dr. Toner, for joining me today. You've offered some really excellent advice to parents, and hopefully they will view this video segment and learn from it.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. I'm Bob Kieserman for Kids Place. Thank you for joining me.